Welcome back to the war. Just hearing those words probably sends a shiver down your spine. Why? Because it wasn't just another battle. It was a brutal, grueling clash of titanic proportions that changed the course of World War II. It was a place where courage met carnage and where the determination of men was tested to its absolute limits. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just what happened on that island, but why it mattered so much, both to the men who fought there and to the outcome of the entire Pacific War. But here's something to keep in mind. The outcome of this battle wasn't just determined by military might. It was a battle of wills, a contest of strategies, and ultimately, a fight for survival. So how did it all unfold? Join us at Legacy of War as we take a deeper look. The road to Iwo Jima. To understand Iwo Jima, we need to rewind a bit. By early 1945, the United States had already been fighting its way across the Pacific for nearly 4 years, island by island, in a bloody campaign to push back the Japanese Empire. Each battle brought them closer to Japan, but also closer to an increasingly desperate and fanatical enemy. Iwo Jima was the next target, an island critical to the U.S. strategy. Why Iwo Jima? Simple. It was a strategic jewel. Located halfway between Japan and American bomber bases in the Marianas, Iwo Jima was perfectly positioned to serve as a staging area for U.S. forces and an emergency landing site for damaged bombers returning from missions over Japan. But the Japanese knew this too, and they were prepared to defend it at all costs. The Japanese defenses. A fortress like no other. Commanding the Japanese forces was Lieutenant General Kuribayashi, a man with a deep understanding of American tactics and a burning resolve to make the battle as costly as possible for the invaders. But Kuribayashi wasn't like other Japanese commanders. He didn't believe in wasteful banzai charges that would only get his men killed. Instead, he had a different plan. Under Kuribayashi's orders, the Japanese spent months transforming Iwo Jima into a fortress. They dug a vast network of tunnels, over 11 miles of them, linking bunkers, artillery positions, and hidden machine gun nests. They turned the island into a deadly maze, where every inch of ground was covered by overlapping fields of fire. The Americans would soon discover that on Iwo Jima, there was no safe place, no respite, and no mercy. The American assault begins February 19, 1945. The American invasion fleet, the largest ever assembled for a single operation at that point, arrived off the coast of Iwo Jima. The Navy had bombarded the island for days, believing they had softened up the defenses. But as the first wave of Marines landed, something strange happened. Nothing. The beaches were eerily silent. No gunfire, no explosions. It was as if the island was deserted. But this was all part of Kuribayashi's plan. As the Marines moved inland, suddenly all hell broke loose. The Japanese defenders opened up with everything they had, machine guns, mortars, artillery, all zeroed in on the beaches now packed with American troops. The Marines were caught in a deadly crossfire, pinned down on the black volcanic sand, with nowhere to run. This was the moment Kuribayashi had been waiting for, and it was just the beginning. Kuribayashi, having crafted a masterclass in defensive warfare, their goal wasn't to win the battle, but to inflict as many casualties as possible, hoping to make the Americans reconsider their invasion of Japan. So don't forget to check out our selection of playlists. We cover other wars like Vietnam, the World Wars, as well as Viking and Roman times. We will also be adding to our collection soon. Make sure you like, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Now relax and enjoy the video. That's an order. The grind of battle. Now imagine being a Marine on Iwo Jima. The terrain is unlike anything you've ever seen. Jagged rocks, steep cliffs, and ash that swallows your boots with every step. The island smells of sulfur, and every inch is covered with death and destruction. The fighting on Iwo Jima wasn't just fierce, it was personal. The Japanese, following the samurai code of Bushido, believe in fighting to the death. Surrender is not an option. For the Americans, it's a relentless grind through hell, where every step forward means another comrade lost. Mount Suribachi, the symbol and the struggle. 5 days into the battle, the Marines made a push for Mount Suribachi, the island's highest point and a key Japanese stronghold. Taking the mountain would give the Americans a crucial vantage point. After a grueling fight up its steep, ash-covered slopes, the Marines finally reached the summit. And then on February 23rd, one of the most iconic moments in military history occurred. 6 Marines raised the American flag atop Suribachi, a moment captured in the now famous photograph by Joe Rosenthal. But while that image became a symbol of American victory, the reality on the ground was far grimmer. This is where many documentaries end the story, but not us. Let's dive deeper into what happened after that flag went up. The battle was far from over. The Japanese defenders, far from being demoralized by the flag raising, fought even harder, refusing to surrender, launching surprise attacks from their hidden tunnels, and making the Americans pay dearly for every inch of ground. The brutal grind, a battle of attrition. What followed was a nightmarish slog through the island's rugged terrain. The Japanese fought from every nook and cranny, using their elaborate tunnel system to launch sudden, devastating counterattacks before disappearing back into the darkness. The Americans had superior numbers and firepower, but the Japanese had the advantage of terrain and preparation. The fighting was intense, with American Marines and soldiers battling through a seemingly endless series of bunkers and caves. Every day was a brutal grind, with the front lines barely moving despite the heavy losses on both sides. Flamethrowers, grenades, and satchel charges became the weapons of choice as the Americans sought to root out the stubborn defenders from their fortified positions. One of the deadliest areas is known as the meat grinder, a series of Japanese defensive positions in the center of the island. Here, the fighting reaches its most intense, with Marines battling not just the enemy, but exhaustion, heat, and the psychological toll of constant death and destruction. It's here, in the meat grinder, that the resolve of the American forces is truly tested. How do you keep fighting when every step forward means more bloodshed? How do you stay sane in the face of such relentless violence? Yet the Marines press on. They know that the battle for Iwo Jima is critical for the success of the broader war effort. This is where their comrades have fallen, and this is where they must prevail. The final push. By mid-March, after nearly a month of continuous fighting, the end is finally in sight. The Marines have secured most of the island, but isolated pockets of Japanese resistance remain. These last holdouts refuse to surrender, fighting with a fanatical determination that shocks even the battle-hardened Marines. The final days of the battle are a grim affair. The Japanese launch desperate banzai charges, throwing everything they have at the American lines in a last-ditch effort to turn the tide. But it's not enough. Slowly, methodically, the Marines eliminate the remaining defenders. By March 26th, the island is declared secure. The high cost of victory. By the time Iwo Jima was finally declared secure on March 26, 1945, 36 days after the initial landing, the island had become a graveyard. Nearly 7,000 Americans were dead, and over 20,000 were wounded. The Japanese losses were even more staggering. Of the 21,000 defenders, only around 200 were taken prisoner, the rest having fought to the death or committed suicide rather than surrender. But was it worth it? The capture of Iwo Jima did provide the U.S. with a critical airbase for the final push toward Japan. B-29 bombers returning from missions over Japan used the island as an emergency landing site, saving countless lives. Yet the battle also served as a sobering reminder of the fierce resistance the Allies would face if they attempted to invade the Japanese home islands, a realization that played into the decision to use atomic bombs later that year. The legacy of Iwo Jima. So why do we still talk about Iwo Jima today? The legacy of Iwo Jima is complex. On one hand, it's remembered as a symbol of American courage and determination. The iconic image of the flag raising becomes a powerful emblem of hope, used to rally the nation and boost morale. On the other hand, the battle raises difficult questions about the cost of war and the price of victory. For the Japanese, Iwo Jima is a symbol of honor and sacrifice, a testament to their willingness to defend their homeland at any cost. For the Americans, it's a reminder of the immense challenges they would face in the final months of the war. It was a battle that shaped the outcome of World War II and left an indelible mark on the history of warfare. As we remember the Battle of Iwo Jima, we honor the bravery of those who fought there, on both sides. We remember the sacrifices made and the lessons learned, and we acknowledge that in the hell of battle, even the smallest patch of land can take on monumental significance. Conclusion. So, what makes the Battle of Iwo Jima so infamous? Is it the sheer scale of the violence, the harrowing conditions, the unwavering resolve of the soldiers on both sides? Perhaps it's all of these things. Iwo Jima wasn't just a battle. It was a crucible, a place where the horrors of war were laid bare, and where ordinary men were pushed to extraordinary lengths. So what do you think? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Check back in again soon. Salute.